Today on Unbiased, we are honored to have Chris Melia, businessman, entrepreneur, all-round exciting guy. Chris, how are you doing, man? It's good to see you.
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here, very excited to talk about what we're going to talk about and get your views on the topic as well.
Awesome. And we are so honored, Chris, that you took the time out. You came straight here from the airport.
Correct.
That means a lot to us, and you must be tired. How was your trip?
The trip was fine, but I'm okay. The excitement of the day and the occasion and the discussion, I'm sure it'll get me through. I'll be fine.
Awesome. So Chris works with young entrepreneurs, and you're doing this tremendous work. You hosted an event last year where many of young entrepreneurs came and they benefited. You're an investor. And today we want to talk about the topic of challenges young entrepreneurs face. And the premise is, people are told to do business. Movies, popular culture, it engineers us at a psyche level to want to do business. It's popular, but no one talks of the challenges. So we just want to tap into your knowledge, your experience working with young people, your experience in business, and of course, as lawyers, we'll touch a little bit on the subject. I can't help being a lawyer myself. We'll touch a little bit on the legal aspects of those challenges. But walk us through, Chris. What are some of the challenges young people are facing in business?
I'm going to start by saying, and this is very, very important, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to start by saying entrepreneurship is not just going and starting your own business. It's not going and just coming up with a new innovation. Entrepreneurship, and this is what I find with young entrepreneurs, even any entrepreneur here in Zim specifically, is their understanding of the term entrepreneur is actually false and incorrect. Because you can work in the banking sector and work for the bank for 14 years and be entrepreneurial within your career. Within the bank. You could work for a law firm and be entrepreneurial as a lawyer.
Okay, how does that go? We are taught when we think entrepreneurship, we think of externally, internationally, we think of Mark Zuckerberg, we think of all these big names. Locally, we think of Strive Masiwa. So how can you reconcile what you just said with that pre-held notion of entrepreneurship?
It's very difficult, and I think it comes back to culture. It comes back to the messages that are fed from us, from our family members, messages fed from us and stories fed from us from friends. But more importantly, in the day that we live in the world that we live in now, it's more so about social media. Because if, for example, I'm a person who aspires to want more, I aspire to want to start my own business. I don't want to work for a bank, for example. I'm now looking on social media, looking at these people, reading their stories, reading how they got to where they are. And my belief and perception now,
so cool,
is that I need to do something very, very similar. It's so cool to, you've just said that, it's so cool to be an entrepreneur. So cool to be a business owner, a CEO. I'm the CEO of now 2 businesses. And people think the CEO just delegates. And then after 9 a.m., he sits back and has a coffee and he just chills. But if you ask any of the people that work with me, if you ask my assistant, she will tell you it's far from the truth.
Speaking of, we broke the mold a little bit, sort of dove straight into the topic. But can you tell us, can we circle back and learn more about those 2 businesses and what you do?
Of course. So the first business I will talk about, and this is going to touch on helping and mentoring young people in Zimbabwe. So the business I'm the CEO of, I started that business in 2018. It's a UK registered business.
Yep.
We also have, but more importantly, we have an office here in Harare. We're currently looking at opening another office in Bulawayo. And pretty much all of the employees that we have in that business, they are all between the ages of 20 to 28.
Wow. Youth empowerment.
Youth empowerment. And what I'm about to say, by the way, we didn't plan for this, but if we look at our gender equality, we've most probably got 70% females and 30% males.
Kudos.
But what I found was, as we were hiring here in Zim, I found that for the jobs that we hire for, which I'm going to come on to very quickly in a second, we just found we had more female applications. And when I was talking to the hiring manager was telling me how those conversations were going with the applicants. And these females are telling us that they're not given the opportunity to be able to apply for these jobs. They're not given the opportunity to have an interview. And more importantly, they're not even given the opportunity to be entrepreneurial themselves.
Which takes us back to entrepreneurship. And you said people have a wrong conception of it, which begs the question, what is entrepreneurship?
It's a very good question, okay? And of course, we can all Google entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But if you start to look at different sources are going to give you different explanations of entrepreneurship. And I'm going to come back to your question, right? I'm just trying to elaborate slightly, just so it makes sense. If you ask a 35-year-old CEO of a business, which is me, by the way, if you ask me what entrepreneurship is, my perception of entrepreneurship may be very different than the CEO of a business who's maybe 60 years old. And maybe they've been the CEO for 30 years, for example, right? But one thing I want to touch on is I keep using the word perception. Entrepreneurship technically can be whatever you need and want it to be. But more specifically, my perception on entrepreneurship is how do I look at a situation, understand where the opportunity lies, and more importantly, be able to come up with a solution to that particular problem. An entrepreneur is someone who can identify where problems lie.
Okay.
And be able to either come up with the solution themselves or understanding where they need to go, who they need to speak to now solve that problem.
So it takes a special kind of eye to see that there is a problem and then to come up with an innovative way to solve the problem.
Correct. This may sound subjective, but of course, again, if we use the word perception, now we're getting into the realms of, well, everyone's got their own perception. Okay. But if I'm being subjective, some people are going to like this, some people are not going to like what I'm just about to say, but not everybody is mentally wired to be entrepreneurial. Unfortunately.
But you're drawing us into murky waters, right?
Because yes, I apologize.
No. I like murky waters.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. But we get to the territory, Chris, of are entrepreneurs born or made?
Both. Entrepreneurs are both born and made. I'll give you my story, just very, very, very high level. I was not born entrepreneurial. It took me, I grew up with one parent. It was just me, my younger sister and my mother. Very cliche story. My mum had 2 jobs. We didn't really have much. And it wasn't until I was getting to around about the age of 14, 15 years old and realizing that it was now time for me as a man to step up and try and help out as much as possible. So it was actually an occasion that forced me into
becoming.
Unlocking
Mm.
that part of my mentality.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And I've got tremendous respect for what you've achieved, what you've built. I'm loving the story as it unfolds. And so let's get to challenges, right? Entrepreneurs, we now know what it is. What challenges do they face? Or rather, you're an investor. One of the big things I hear is the money question.
Mhm.
As an investor, I get the privilege of asking you, Chris, what do you consider from an entrepreneur before you part with your money? Because to the entrepreneur, money is a challenge.
Mhm.
But to you, the investor, and to our viewers, what do you consider?
We held 3 different events last year in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And those events gave young entrepreneurs the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to come and pitch to me
Okay.
their ideas, their business ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those business ideas were trying to create the next spaceship, for example. Some of them were, some in the majority were just simple, very, let's buy at A, sell at B, these are our customers, etc. The biggest challenge I found for those individuals straight away was they didn't come to that pitch prepared enough. And when I say prepared enough, I mean they didn't understand their own numbers.
Ah.
So for example, they didn't come with, this is, everyone came with, this is how much money I want.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's going to come with that. How much money do I want?
Yeah.
But what they didn't come with is, they didn't think about me. Nobody had thought about me. Which, if you think about it, is the most important part of business, right? Is who's the customer?
Yeah.
What does the customer want? More importantly, what does the customer need?
Yeah.
So none of them came with, so Chris, I want $50,000 from you.
Mm-hmm.
This is how the $50,000 is going to be spent. But more importantly, this is how quickly your investment is going to be returned. And this is what your return on investment is.
So most of them were in the wrong place.
Correct.
Mentally.
Correct.
They wanted the money. It was about getting the seed capital.
Correct.
And not much thought, you're saying, was put in the human side of the whole
Everybody, I don't know if this is a young Zim thing, I'm not quite sure, but the mentality in the approach I typically find here is they only think of what I can get out of this. So if I'm going to search for investment, what can I get out of this occasion? Which networking, creating business, it's not actually about that.
Okay.
It's about, if you ever go to a networking event, and this is a tip for you,
Mm-hmm.
if you ever, you may be doing this already. If you go to a networking event, don't go to the networking event looking at, oh, so that person's good for me, that person's good for me, that person's good for me. Go to the networking event, knowing, I know Simba's a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I know he wants to be, I know he wants to target this sector.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my phone, but Simba. So I'm Chris from CMI, I'm the CEO. I know a little bit about your organization. And I was actually thinking, I know some very interesting people. And I think they could be good contacts for you. That's where it starts.
Value proposition.
I need to bring the value to you, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It makes tremendous sense. And I guess it's a problem we see coupled with the other problem you mentioned, where they want to make the next spaceship. Right?
Yes.
And I've said this before, Chris, not every business is an app.
No.
People see Facebook doing well, they want to make the next Facebook.
Yeah.
They see SpaceX doing well, they want to make the next SpaceX.
Yeah.
How do we, because I've often wondered, what do we stand to benefit from investing heavily in trying to copy businesses that have already been done elsewhere because of the infrastructure they have? Because if I'm making a business for Manhattan, they've got fast internet access.
Mm-hmm.
They've got over 100% internet penetration.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Zimbabwe, the case is different, as at 2020 official figures indicate that internet penetration might have been at 66%.
Mhm.
Am I not better off, and I'm asking sincerely, investing in cattle, in Gezi? Am I not better off investing in gold, in kwekwe? Things that augur with our context.
I'm going to give you. It's a very good question,
Yeah.
and I understand where that question's come from, and I'm going to give you two different answers in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So the first answer is, and this is the simplest answer: anytime you are investing in those types of assets, in cattle, I'm not an expert in cattle. I know some people who are, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an expert in cattle, but I'm sure if you look at certain business models compared to certain assets like cattle or property or land or whatever that's going to be, usually you would invest in the latter, because most of the business ideas you're going to come across usually are not going to be as valuable and are not going to give you as much return on investment.
Yes.
And more importantly, the business you're going to invest in is going to be a lot more unpredictable.
Yeah.
Especially here in the Zim,
environment.
We've got Zim environment, Zim economics, politics. We're not going to go into that, of course, but the latter would always be, not always, usually be the safer bet. That's the first answer. The second answer is business in Zim. If I was to start I'm going to call it a simple business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is no disrespect to anyone that does any of these businesses, because this could be great businesses. I could be somebody that does, cutting the grass, or maintaining the trees, or there could be, recording videos, for example, right? When you look at customer satisfaction and how it's measured by businesses, you go and interview 10 different businesses and ask them how they measure their customer satisfaction. Out of 10 businesses, I would guess 7 or 8 of them can't answer you. So what that does is it creates opportunity, and it creates simplicity when we now look at our business model. Well, if we're one of 10 businesses doing recording videos and lighting and everything else, well, if there's 10 of us and we know the other 9 are not looking at customer satisfaction, they're not looking at how do we increase our wallet share with our customer base. Let's not focus on customer acquisition. Let's focus on our existing customers. How do we make them happier? And what products and services do we add to our portfolio
to get them spending
more?
Now
get them spending more.
Yeah.
But to get them spending more, you grab the first thing, which is customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
So for a lot of businesses that I speak to, this is not even on their radar.
Wow. And they are in business. They claim to be in business at
well,
the very least.
They are in business, but these are they're also some of these people are also the people that are complaining to me that their business is failing or their business is struggling. And these are some of my first question is, okay, how do you track customer satisfaction? How do you track the last engagement you had with that customer? How do you engage? How do you communicate?
And they come out empty.
Do you have a chat bot on your website? Do you have WhatsApp? Do you have 24/7 support? Do you have quarterly or monthly checkups? Do you go and see the customer face to face?
And what you're saying makes sense as we prepare to close, Chris, because you're saying, and it's a mind-blowing philosophy, you're saying let's stop selling products, let's start selling experiences.
Correct.
That's a whole shift. Correct. It's more like comparing the car whose brand name I won't mention with Mercedes. Mercedes sells you an experience. You get right in there, you feel at home.
By the way, I'm going to just elaborate on that very quickly, right? Because this could be a whole topic on its own.
Yeah.
Sales, because anyone that's in business is a salesperson, right? If you're now dating a new female and you've got a new girlfriend and you're going to meet the parents and it's Rora Day, right? You're now a salesperson. You're selling yourself to the family. We're all salespeople, right? At some point in our lives.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this very simple. Sales is a psychology. The only thing you need to understand is the person I'm trying to sell to, what are they looking for? So it comes back, we come full circle to what we spoke about earlier. If you don't understand what the customer is looking for, the need, the want,
the pain point,
it's very difficult for you to now sell yourself and sell your product and service.
Wow.
So any business, whether it's product, whether it's service, whether it's recording videos, cutting the grass, it's psychology. Selling that is a psychology.
Oof. There you have it. Chris Melia from CMI International and a whole bunch of other exciting initiatives. We've been honored to have him. And Chris, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Means a lot. Coming straight from the airport, coming straight into this shows how much you value us and our relationship. Thank you so much. From us at Unbiased, this has been great. Let's keep walking the talk.